There we go. There we go. We are live. I tell you, by hook or by crook, we always make it here. And I have got Ben Emlyn-Jones in the hot seat today. Now, don't be reading too much into the fact I'm on here on YouTube right now, when typically we would be on TFR. Unfortunately, Skype has updated. It took me just a bit too long to get a hold of the network. So myself and Ben decided, well, we're not going to let this opportunity go to pass. Not when we can come and go live over here on what could be a very historic week. You know, I think me and Ben Emlyn-Jones have been talking about UFO disclosure ever since I met Ben many, many years ago now. I don't know how many shows we're up to. Ben's probably got a rough idea. But like I said, this could be a historic week because it's disclosure week, right? If we can call it that. We're meant to be getting the much talked about report going to the Senate in the US, and disclosure will be afoot, right? Right? Well, we'll see about that. So I wasn't going to let today's opportunity to hear from one of the UK's, in my opinion, one of the UK's leading researchers into topics like ufology. But he's not limited to ufology, not our Ben. He's the man behind Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. He's written 3 books on the subject of disclosure, and they are on Amazon. We can talk about that in a little moment. And he's here with us today. He comes on once a month. Ben, how you doing, brother?
Kev, how are you, mate? It's great to be back on the show. Again, it's TFR. We're not on TFR tonight. That's a shame. It's unusual that happens. I don't think in the 71 shows, including this one, I've done with you.
I feel like a fish out of water. I'm telling you, man. It's like an alien world. I'm missing my home.
It's never happened before, no, but I'm sorry. So apologies to TFR listeners for not, if you're listening to this as the recording. It was technical problems as always, but yeah, it's really, really an amazing time at the moment. And as Kev was saying, you know, I'm pretty much a broad church kind of researcher. I look into all kinds of different subjects, but the UFO issue has really been at the forefront for the last, on and off really for the last few years, but at the moment definitely, because on Friday, the long-awaited 6 months is up when President Trump signed the he actually did it just before Christmas Day, and which means that the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force has to release a report to the Senate Intelligence Committee. This report is going to be public. Now, this has never happened before. Even Project Blue Book didn't do this. So what's it going to say? Well, according to a source at the New York Times, and I'm inclined to take them seriously over this because they've been very good before in the past when it comes to the UFOs. You've given Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal virtually have a column now. They have released a preview, which was supposedly leaked from one of the committee's members. We don't know which one. Obviously, they're not going to confess because this is supposed to be kept confidential till the Friday. But it's disappointing. If this is an accurate leak, then Friday is going to be disappointing. This long-awaited June the 25th day, which some people say, oh, it's going to be the day of disclosure. I'm afraid not. I really am pretty sure it's not going to be. I do hope that if this leak is wrong, I'll be absolutely delighted. But the leak, unfortunately, really just repeats what we've heard on and off now since the late 1940s. I was rewatching the famous press conference with General John Samford, who was head of the Air Force. In July 1952, he did a famous TV correspondence, which you've probably seen, actually. It's a very famous piece of footage, where he lays out the classic line, nearly all of them can be explained, these UFOs. We're keeping an eye on them. There are a small number we don't know what they are. There's no evidence to suggest positively that they're extraterrestrial spacecraft. We're just putting them in the unknown folder and we're leaving it there. Now, those words have been paraphrased over and over again down the years, such as the Condon Committee 1969. If you read that report, it basically says the same thing. There's the 2011 reply to the petition, which was a lie, which they've admitted was the government have been caught out lying on that. And now this UAPTF report. Now, it's not the end of the world. Firstly, the leak might be wrong. Secondly, there's one every 6 months. So it's just not one. It's not just one. There'll be one this Friday, but there'll be another one around about Christmas time, and then another one the following summer, etc., etc. So it's not the end of the world. However, the people behind this, the so-called new ufologists behind this, such as David Fravor, Sean Cahill, these are the witnesses. There's several others, such as Alex Dietrich, another pilot who's speaking out now, and the researchers such as Christopher Mellon, Lou Elizondo, and these people. They're very, very disappointed by this, and they have said that really the evidence that has been gathered now means that it's safe to say theoretically that this is probably a non-human construction. It's a non-human intelligent construction. There's absolutely nothing wrong now with saying that, according to them. Yes, we don't have. Even if they say, well, we can't prove it. Yeah, but it's close enough, Kev. That's what they're saying, and that's before they even get into the sorcery and the hangout stuff. Yeah. So we'll see what happens anyway on the 25th. I'm waiting, poised.
Yeah, I think me and you are both approaching this with a very healthy level of skepticism. The same type of people that have hidden all the UFO stuff for all these years are now going to be the ones just to roll it out. We can see, I mean, I'm trying not to get too invested either way, because like you said, it's going to be an ongoing process if we're going to be coming back here every 6 months. But one thing I have noticed, and it's something we've really been quite good, dare I say it, Ben, at covering the fact that there was a big change in the attitude towards UFOs starting in 2017. And we had Tucker Carlson and Fox News, CNN, New York Post, Washington Post. Everyone started to take UFOs seriously. Now, we've seen that continue, albeit quite slow-paced, up until present time. But then just today, I was sharing with you a few hours before the show, the media hype outside of the US now is really turning up the heat, right? Because Sky News is about as mainstream as you're going to get in the UK. And they actually sent out an alert, like a breaking news alert, about the UFO report and whether research welcome the release of government information about aerial phenomenon. And what's your take on it, Ben, when you start to see Sky News approaching it quite the way they are here, almost like they're hyping it up?
Yeah, this did surprise me. I mean, the actual article by Greg Millam of Sky News doesn't actually say anything that we don't already know, because this basically, the article is basically a summary of the situation that we've explored in great detail. Yep. However, if you go to Sky's homepage, it's actually on the headlines. It's actually right there on the headlines, which not it was when we last looked. Yeah. So that I think is I've not been done. Even BBC didn't do that. It didn't go that far with the BBC. So what this means, Kev, is it good or bad? Hyping up is a good way to say it. If they're promoting it that much, that's definitely hype, absolutely hype. This is why I feel it's very anticlimactic what I heard when the report was supposedly leaked to the New York Times. It sounded so anticlimactic and so out of character and out of step with what you've just been saying. Because you were saying, it's that video. It's the video on the article going.
I don't think the government can hide those secrets.
Well, I like how the audio plays in the damn video, doesn't it? That's typical Sky News.
Yeah, but it seems out of step, because you were saying since 2017. This lie, the whole way UFOs have been treated just suddenly changed after 70 whole years, ever since the Hill and Cutter Twining memo. Suddenly it just changed, and now the UAPTF, are they really going to just bring out the same old lie? Now, Bryce Zabel has already tackled this before the leak. Bryce Zabel was writing articles saying that he advised them, don't do this because it won't wash. And to be honest, Kev, it won't. I don't see how after everything that's happened and everything they've been saying and everything that's come out, they're just going to come out with the old cut the twining nonsense.
Now, Ben, for people out there who might just be new to all this, Bryce Zabel, I know who he is, but could you tell the audience where he kind of comes into this?
Bryce Zabel is an excellent exopolitician and ufologist. He's the co-author of AD After Disclosure by Richard Dolan, with Richard Dolan. Now, he's well known as a screenwriter in Hollywood. In fact, if you ever see the series Dark Skies, not the film, the series Dark Skies, a very, very good X-Files type series.
Awesome.
He was the scriptwriter of that, and you can, when you watch it, you can actually tell this guy is really into UFOs, because that's a great series, and it takes it very, very seriously indeed. And actually, Bryce is very, very, he is totally and utterly on our side with this sort of thing. He really is. He's made several, I think we've discussed him on a previous show about what he's been saying. He basically, what he's going to say, I know exactly what he's going to say to this, because if this report just comes out with, oh, yeah, we just sort of think we don't know what they are. There's a few of them. We can't rule out that they're aliens, but there's no evidence and stuff like that. All the rest, we can explain them. That's what they've been saying for so long, and it's just not going to work. I don't think they can sell that on people. I hope not, anyway. I certainly won't be buying it.
I must admit, I'm still really skeptical of the fact that you've got these craft, and listen, you know me. I definitely believe in extraterrestrials, spacecraft from other planets, but there's still a part of me that wonders about what we're seeing, whether this is truly alien. Now, it could very well be alien technology from, say, some kind of crash retrievals in the past. And the reason I find it interesting, Ben, is I've been watching a channel on here called Alien Scientist, and
Jeremy Reese.
Yeah, makes a really good case for all of the really kind of weird and secretive and kind of military-industrial complex type companies that have got electronic warfare facilities, the types of things that can spoof radar signatures. There's Boeing. There's all these kind of companies that you'd associate with high advanced technology, and they just happen to be stationed right along the same coasts where all of these incidents have been filmed by ships. And if they are aliens coming in, maybe we shouldn't be too worried about them militarily. Okay, maybe they can travel vast distances across the universe, but they're not showing very good tactical skills by flying where they can be filmed by our, cutting-edge naval destroyers, Top Gun pilots. I don't know, dude. And when I see the Pentagon releasing anything, they can sit there and they can tell me, no, we don't know what this is. But I don't know, dude. I think they pretty much know exactly what it is.
It could be, as Alien Scientist says on his channel. And I mean, he uploads a lot. I mean, I can't follow all his stuff because he has 5-hour videos almost every day.
Good stuff, man.
But he's very interesting. He goes into he's a bit like Andrew Johnson, check the evidence. He's another guy who's very interesting. But he goes into because he's trained in science, and he's got a degree in physics, and he studied this alternative science. He knows Michael Schratt. He knows Mark McCandlish, sadly now deceased. Yeah. And he was saying that these craft, he goes through several UFO cases actually where he says an explanation could be for these are actually not extraterrestrial. They are actually man-made. They may be, as you just said, based on research done on salvaged debris from extraterrestrial incidents. Alien reproduction vehicles, McCandlish called them.
Yeah. But
they were built right here. They're built by Lockheed Martin. They're built in the Skunk Works. They're built by these various other companies that he's identified. As you said, they at least the most recent sightings that have been reported have appeared close to where he thinks these things might have been made. And that is a very, very interesting thing.
It's just a data point. I mean, I'm sure the Alien Scientist himself, he doesn't make any definite claims, but I find it interesting. And something else I find interesting, Ben, is I'm pretty much 99% sure, you'll be able to correct me here, but Obama, okay, when he was in office, he got asked the question, but he kind of poo-pooed it about the aliens. And now Obama's been back on the telly, and he's gone full alien.
He has indeed. He was on this program called, what was it called? The Late Late Show with what's his name?
He doesn't deserve to be named. He's the least funny
James
UK
Corden.
comedian in the world.
Yeah, the Late Late Show with James Corden, who's he's recently appeared in this ridiculous video about a subject we can't talk about as well, which makes him look really stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does this sort of talk show, and they had President Obama calling in, and it wasn't him actually. It was a guy called Reggie, who's the band leader, because like they have like a live band in the studio. Reggie asked the president. He says he just basically pops the question, the one everyone's been asking. And Obama said something really strange. He says, when it comes to aliens, there are some things I just can't tell you. When I came into office, I asked, is there a lab somewhere where we're keeping alien specimens in a spaceship? They did some research, and the answer was no. But what is true, and I'm being serious, there is footage and records of objects in the sky, and we don't know exactly what they are. They do not have an easily explicable pattern. People keep investigating, trying to figure out what it is, but I have nothing to report to you today. And he just makes a joke after that, which is odd because on Jimmy Kimmel's show he denies that. He denied that when he was on the Jimmy Kimmel show, what he just said. So basically he said something very similar to what John Brennan said. Do you remember the former director of national intelligence?
Yep.
Oh, no, sorry, the head of the CIA. It was Ratcliffe who's DNI. Brennan was head of the CIA and said basically the same thing. So that's interesting. It's interesting. I've never heard. The only other president who said anything like that was Jimmy Carter. He had his own personal sighting and he reported it. No other president, as far as I know, has said anything like that. President Trump had made some hints about it, but funny enough, Biden. Did you see the press conference where he dodges the whole thing?
No, I didn't see it, man. Didn't see it.
Oh, right. Biden was on the stage in the press conference, and the reporter was in the audience. He's taking questions from the reporters. This wasn't in the Brady room. This was somewhere else. This reporter asked the question about what we just talked about Obama appearing on this program, and what he said. Biden just sort of like looked at him. He did his usual. He sort of looked in that sort of strange way that people do when they're a bit gaga in their head. And he goes, "Oh well, you better ask him again." And he just walks off, which is very unstatesmanlike, I would say. Funnily enough, his press secretary, Jen Psaki, this was in the Brady room, the actual official press conference room. And she said something very, very different. She said, because she took the question, it's the same question, the question they're all asking at the moment. She didn't make a joke. She said, we're aware of the report requirements, and our team at the Office of the Director of National Intelligence is, of course, actively working on that report. And we take reports of incursions into our airspace by any aircraft, identified or unidentified, very seriously and investigate each one. The safety of our personnel, the security of our operations, and our airspace are a paramount concern. Whether that is identified or unidentified aircraft, we don't discuss that publicly, but the President supports the Office of the DNI putting together a report following the commitment that President Trump's UAPTF report instructions made. So she basically said that they're going to release the report. She was unequivocal. She was very equivocal over what the things were. She said identified or unidentified aircraft. She didn't say the A word.
Okay, what's happening?
I'll say it.
There we go. Now your Skype glitched out there, Benny. You back with me now? Wow. Now then, wait till I find Skype. I'll try and call Ben back. Wow. Holy shamoly trips. 2 seconds here. Try and call him back. Dang. Hey, if I was a little bit paranoid. And now, of course, we're probably not going to get Ben back. What the dickens is going on? Dang. Okay. Give me 2 minutes, folks. I'm going to shove some music on. Never fear. We will sort it. We will sort it. There he is.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah. Yo,
hello, Kev.
are you back?
I hope so. If you can hear me, I am.
can
yeah.
now, yeah.
My internet went down. Just went off for about 10 seconds.
Holy shamoly, dude. I was going to say, if we were the type of people to get paranoid.
Kev, you're not suggesting something underhand from the government,
No,
are you?
I'll tell you. Can you shove your camera on?
Oh, yeah, sure. They wouldn't do that to us, I'm sure. They believe in free speech.
Usually I'm the one that laughs at these type of things, but hey, listen, it is what it is, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
well, we're back. We're live now, I think.
Sorry about that. That was a problem at my end. It's hopefully it won't happen again. It's at the moment I'm back online, but so it's happened a couple of times over the last few weeks actually, which is my internet just drops out for about 10 seconds.
No, don't say that. It's more exciting when we think it's like GCHQ or something, man.
That's true. Well, they would be scared what we're about to say, but maybe after things could change, because it'd be great fun. Like I said, did you hear me? I was talking about the the press secretary.
Yeah, we heard that, and then you just all glitched out, man. You all glitched out altogether.
Yeah, it's no worries, mate. It just this came at a weird time because there's been more footage released. There's there's some more footage from the USS Omaha, which is meant to back up the stuff that Jeremy Corbell published before. This is inside the ship in the radar. There's like a radar set, and they're filming basically this radar display, and you can see little blobs and things around the ship on this radar display, and you can hear sailors in the background talking about it, things like that.
The only problem I've got with that is that in the 1950s, Project Parabellum, we were spoofing radar signatures. The Americans were onto Soviet radars when the Cold War was on. So it's like 60-year-old technology that we know about. Where again, see, we could spoof. Somebody with the technology out there could spoof those radars. And it doesn't mean that the people on the boats are involved. They're not part of a giant conspiracy, because they're looking at a radar and they're thinking, whoa, that's a lot of bogeys on that radar. But what worries me is that we've got the technology to spoof that. So that's why I just tell everyone, keep an open mind with anything that's going to be coming out this Friday or whenever it is it's coming out, because I don't know, dude. I just am struggling to trust these people very well. Jeremy Corbell, for starters, I don't know. And what's your take on Bob Lazar?
Oh, God, that's a
show in itself, right?
Yeah, it is. On the subject of the radar, the radar, false images on radar, that can indeed be done. Several analysts have suggested that Milton Torres in 1957 was used in some kind of experiment for things like that, because he's the one who saw he had strange readings on his radar. He was actually ordered to engage with his weapons on his aircraft. He actually.
Ben, you know me, I don't like playing the skeptic, but at the same time, we've got to pursue all angles, right?
We do. I mean, the thing about it is, theoretically, what we could be looking at is in terms of the craft, is our own is not our technology, but the deep state's technology. They've done this in secret. They built these things in secret. We know they were working on this. We know that, for example, in Germany, they were working before World War II. They were working on this from the early 1930s. We know that there was Operation Paperclip at the end of the war, where various experts from Germany were basically taken away to the Allied countries to work there. But there was talk about anti-gravity development, which suddenly went quiet, very suddenly in 1956. It went quiet very suddenly, according to alien scientists. And then suddenly we have craft appearing, some of which, I mean, when it comes to UFOs, UFO just means unidentified. Yep. There could be many, many different things. There could be a whole array of phenomena we're talking about here. But at least some of them, I think, could be explained as our secret government technology. Now, if it's secret, obviously, if this is secret government technology, they're not keeping it very secret, because, as I think we talked about this on a previous show, Area 51 does have secret aviation projects, and they create they create temporary airways for them to fly on secretly, so they can't be picked up, and they make no-fly zones while these planes are going in and out of Area 51, and you get the plane spotters turn up to try and catch a glimpse of them. But they always go in and out by night time, so they can't be seen. They're not using lights, things like that. Now, this is where it gets a bit sinister, Kev, because if Jeremy Reese is right, and what we're seeing, the Tic Tac and things like that, the Tic Tac is this weird, because he actually had pictures of Michael Schrapp produced a picture of a craft which is an alien reproduction vehicle. It looks just like the Tic Tac. It even has a little bit sticking out of it, right? And if that is what we're looking at, then the only reason they're flying them close to a U.S. Navy battle group and other situations as well is because they want us to see them. They want people to see them and possibly mistake them for extraterrestrial. Why? Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Oh, it does.
You see, this is
where
I
can think of billions of reason when it comes to the defense budget, but and then you can also go down the whole really kind of conspiratorial line of fake alien invasions and things. I'm not ready to go there just yet. Not just yet.
Not just. You see, at the moment we don't know. I mean, we could be. These things will turn out to be extraterrestrials, and if the government really is going to come clean on this, it's a possibility that it's an opportunity I wouldn't want to pass over. But at the same time, if we go in it with, if we mustn't be naive about this, Kev. It's like we know that they don't have a track record for honesty. We know they're very, very skillful when it comes to disinformation and psychological warfare. We have to seriously consider the possibility this is another example of that. Now, 20 years ago, just over, Dr. Stephen Greer organised the Disclosure Project press conference in Washington, D.C. One of the most interesting witnesses to testify was Carol Rosin. She talked about how she knew Werner von Braun. He was part of Operation Paperclip, by the way. In 1945, he was spirited out of Germany, worked on the NASA's rocket program. He was the original rocket scientist. She knew him. He said, basically, he told her in the mid-1970s that the Cold War was scheduled to end in about a decade, which is correct, because that's basically when Gorbachev became Soviet president and the Cold War wound down. Then he mentioned, but then he said this would be replaced by the terrorist threat. And of course, then we had 9/11, and what was international terrorism was the haute de jour, wasn't it? Or if that's the right word. I don't want to sound pretentious.
And then there would be asteroids, and then
And the last card would be the extraterrestrial threat.
Is it possible they're skipping the asteroids and going straight for the last card, Kev? You see, if they did that, you see, they supposing, well, within politics at the moment, there's absolutely no doubt, this is what I've been studying, there's been a trend throughout history towards greater and greater authoritarianism and internationalism. But they can't, if someone wanted to set up a world government, for example, they could just set one up. I mean, look at the trouble they had with Brexit, for goodness sake. You know, people wouldn't want to be part of a world government. Most people, I don't think, would want to be part of a one world government. However, if you say you're in danger, you're in big trouble, there's something nasty out there, and we can protect you from it if you're in part of this world government.
Like Ronald Reagan said, you know.
Then that'll be very, very different. Because as Reagan said, didn't he? He said, I sometimes think how quickly our differences would disappear if we were faced with a threat from beyond this earth. And of course, that's true. And in the film Independence Day, now it's a terrible movie. It's absolutely appalling.
It's pretty bad. I must admit, it's pretty bad. And I like my sci-fi. You know what I mean?
But it's very, very interesting to watch. I do recommend watching it for research purposes only. You see this happen. The whole world pools its resources. There's a very interesting shot of two jet fighters taking off in that film. One has the Israeli flag on it, the other has the Iraqi flag on it. Two sworn enemies who've put aside their differences and unite to defeat this extraterrestrial threat. These giant.
You got to deal with the face huggers when they come, man. You got to deal with them. You know.
Well, look, the aliens in that particular film, which are horrible. I mean, they look like the one in the film Alien. They have these tentacles on them. You can imagine them wrapping around your face, and you really can.
Give me the Nordics any day, man.
Oh yeah, or preferably that green girl from Star Wars. You know, that'd be ideal.
Yeah.
She can abduct me any day.
Yeah, we're all right with that. In fact, talking of that kind of thing now, hang on. I've got a story here somewhere. This is another one that's in the British news right now. Will I bring this up here? This is more of a funnier, weirder one that appeared. But this says, alien news, British woman Abby Bella says she fell in love with alien after better than Terran UFO abduction. She's an actress.
Oh,
and she has decided to ditch men after being taken aboard a UFO and probed profusely.
Oh, dear.
Once you go reptilian, you never go back.
Oh, this is absurd.
It is absurd, isn't it? Isn't it? Brilliant, isn't it?
I think Colin Wolford shared this somewhere. It was another paper, but obviously this is probably going viral. But
it's from the Daily Star. Abby claimed this month that she was abducted by aliens. Said the aliens, she gave her heart were from the Andromeda galaxy, and that she can't wait to find her love.
Oh, dearie me. I mean, obviously
you got to be inclusive and all diverse nowadays, Ben, you know?
Well, if you can't get more diverse than going for the aliens, can you? I mean, that's the ultimate thing,
It really is. It really is.
That's taking virtue signaling to the ultimate extreme.
Big time.
Funnily enough, this is like a tabloid gimmicky novelty piece, but I wonder if they misquoted her somewhat. I mean, I don't know what her position is, but you see, people do have all kinds of different contact experiences with aliens, and this does include sometimes
Ben,
relationships.
I think it happens. I do think there are definitely people who are contactees. Now, that being said, it's hard to kind of whittle out the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. Because there's a few out there that, I don't know, they're just a bit more questionable. But I do think it absolutely happens. I think the abduction thing is very real as well. But if you were to say to anyone out there, one of the most compelling, or what in your opinion would be the most compelling type of case of contactee or abduction?
Well, you see, behind that nonsense headline, there is a very, very serious subject here. I mean, I don't know if you've had Tony Toppin on your show.
No.
You haven't, no. He's been on my show a few times. He's actually about to publish a book about this, but he has a similar story to that lady to tell, and he tells it seriously. And I believe him. I believe him after talking to him. I mean, the guy on the interview I did, I think the last one or the one before, he was crying on the air, and this is something very real to him. That's what
I mean, dude. This is definitely something that goes on. I'm there with you, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a serious matter.
So you think his story's one people should take a look at?
Definitely. I'm looking forward to reading his book when it comes out. I can't remember what the title is, but he's working on it at the moment. He says it's not long now. I think he's finished the book. He's just getting it designed and getting it. So
is it contactee? Is it abductions? What's going on there?
He's a lifelong contactee, and having known the bloke for a long time and talked to him many, many times, privately and publicly, I believe him. Hello, Charles Unleashed, by the way. Charles Unleashed is there. Nothing as it seems. He recently described something he's never described before, which is that he had an intimate relationship with a female extraterrestrial, and that he has a child with her. I'm not breaching confidence here, because he said this the last time he was on my show, and this is going to be described in the book in detail. He's not the only one. There's Anne Andrews is another who, again, she has a child which doesn't live in this world, lives with the aliens, and it's having read Mary Rodwell's report. I mean, I've met Anne a few times. I've spoken to her, but Mary Rodwell wrote a book about various contact experiences, included Anne's story, and again described her counselling sessions with Anne. And it's a very, very emotional thing to read, very emotional indeed, and it's certainly, I think, something real. I agree
with you. I do agree with you, because when you do see some of what I would consider the genuine reports, like you say, these people are reliving something pretty traumatic. But what does it say about at least some of these entities then, right? Because I know Greer likes to say they're all love and light, but there's like instances where it looks like we're just nothing more than lab rats to them, some kind of genetic experiment. Then you've got the whole cattle thing going on.
Exactly, yeah.
So I don't know, dude. I mean, what's it say to you?
But the extraterrestrials, the beings people encounter during these experiences, vary enormously. There's an entire taxonomy now of different species. Funnily enough, they're seen all over the world, regardless of your race, culture, and background or geographical location. You will tend to see the same beings, and they have a wide variety of agendas. It seems they exhibit many different behaviours, and some that are part of the same species will be different from others who are part of the same species. Some people do indeed meet very, very pleasant aliens that are very, very nice. There's some of them, they will talk and they'll teach. There'll be educational sessions. Mary Rodwell specialises in these kinds of experiences, and there'll be people who have intimate relationships. I mean, Mike Oram calls the alien that he regularly is abducted by, he calls it his space brother. He uses the term space brother. Others are different. For example, Antonio Villas-Boas. Now, this is a very, very famous case from 1957, which again involves sexual encounters with aliens, but it's not like the one we've been talking about, the ones we've just been talking about with that lady. This guy was abducted, and he was put in a situation where I think his mind was messed with, and he ended up essentially, I think is rape a strong enough word? Is it too strong? I don't know, because he was encountered with an alien where he was kind of lured into a sexual encounter with this alien that looked like a human woman, very similar to a human woman, but was not. I mean, there were several aspects about her indicated she was not human, but he ended up having intercourse with this creature and then being released. And it's obvious that in that situation, you something you couldn't normally even think of doing, but he did it. And then he was just released. And he got the impression from what these aliens were communicating with him that he had been needed to father an offspring with an alien as a hybrid. And the creature that he sired would not be allowed to go live with him. He wasn't allowed visiting rights at the weekend or anything like that. This creature was going to be born in space or in the other dimensions, wherever these things came from. That is something that happens again and again and again. It's not that different to the Anne Andrews story, except there's obviously with Anne, she got pregnant and then she believed it was a baby she got pregnant with her husband by, but then it's the usual thing. You wake up, this happens to women, a lot of women. They wake up and they suddenly think, I'm not pregnant. They go to the doctor and the doctor says, oh no, you're not pregnant. Sorry, we made a mistake with the test. Because that's the only explanation a doctor can come up with, isn't it? Yeah. But then later on they have another abduction experience, and sometimes they meet their child. They actually meet the child they think they lost. What happened was they got pregnant. Usually, sometimes it's by the aliens, by an extraterrestrial source, and then the baby's taken before term from the mother's womb. And
yeah, I remember doing a show like this years ago, and you need to excuse me, but I can't remember the lady's name. But it was along these lines, and it was harrowing to listen to, dude. Because this was like somebody who had their child taken away, and how does Greer kind of present that? What's his take on that then? It's all good in the hood. They're just love and light.
Greer, unfortunately, I think is someone who's either being very dishonest or I think he's deluded. There's a very famous debate which got quite heated. He did with Kerry Cassidy, and Kerry does quite rightly explain that he's wrong there. Aliens, the extraterrestrials, whatever they might be, they seem to be very, very different in many different ways. Some of them are deeply unpleasant. There are deaths associated with alien abductions experiences and permanent disappearances. It's rare, but it does happen. Sometimes they take you and they don't bring you back. There's the mutilation phenomenon, which affects all species, and I mean all. Is human bodies have turned up with the cattle mutilation injuries. As if you look at researchers such as David Caton and Richard D. Hall, Richard made a very, very good documentary about this. about the fact that the human body sometimes turn up with these injuries. Greer is, I think he himself had contact experiences that were very positive. And he seems to have got it into his head that his experiences, his type of experience, is the only real experience. And if you have a different kind of experience, then it's basically the government trying to fool you into thinking the aliens are real. They got like fake aliens and genetically modified clones and things like this, and they have stagecraft and stuff like this.
It gets a bit crazy, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think Greer is wrong there. I mean, Greer's in many ways I respect the guy, but
we have
I've got a
to,
lot of
right?
problems
Because
with him.
I mean, that initial press conference you were talking about, I mean, that really did do a lot for ufology. You know, we're still talking about it here today, for goodness sake, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So we can't take away the work that he has done, but at the same time, I don't know, man, there's something about him.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think he's got his recent behaviour. I think is particularly disreputable. He did a video the other day where he basically just he gave Danny Sheehan a veiled threat. Danny Sheehan has been his solicitor. He's been the lawyer for the Disclosure Project for about almost 30 years. But he then announced he was going to act for Lou Elizondo, and Greer made a video saying he's told Danny has to ask Lou if he's an intelligence asset, and if Lou doesn't basically admit it and say he's an intelligence asset, then Danny's got to drop him as a client. And I mean, Danny Sheehan, I hope, will do what he believes is right, because I do wonder about Greer, because of course we've just been talking about the fact that possibly there's some kind of massive psyop being played on us here, but at the same time, I mean, I think Greer may be a bit, as Marty Magic says, Greer is something with ego. Yeah, Greer is a bit annoyed that Disclosure is not just about him. I think that's what bothers him. Yeah, he has an ego problem. Yeah, he does. As whether if Lou Elizondo fooling us, or is he sincere? I don't think we can assume either right now. It's certainly not fair. I think it's unjust to assume that he's some kind of disinfo agent without any evidence. But at the same time, we shouldn't hang on his every word. We have to tread a very careful tightrope here.
When you read between the lines, I mean, it sounds like there was at least a faction within the Pentagon, within Spook World, that was quite happy for Elizondo to be that middleman between the Stars Academy and the information we're getting. And then obviously at some point something's changed, because we've had the Pentagon, sometimes they deny he was part of anything, sometimes they admit he was, and now it just feels weird, doesn't it, Ben, that it feels like we've been going through a psyop for 4 years. It's been building up to this report, and then the report's going to be bit of a damp squib. It's weird. If
it turns out to be that, then I'll wonder exactly what kind of message we've been giving, what's going on, because something's going on behind the scenes. And there's Tony Toppin, actually, he was on Talk Radio with Mark Dolan, no relation, and he says that within the Pentagon he believes that there's a lot of indecision about what to do now, because there's some of them that are saying we got to come clean, and what's happened since 2017, and this is what I thought, actually, this is something I came up with, is essentially maybe a crash course in ufology for the general public. They're trying to condense all the information from the last 70 years down into 7 years, and so that people won't. What's it David Bowie said? The Starman won't blow their minds.
It's a good way of looking at it.
It could be that this is the PSYOP. Basically, is kind of like a very, very fast decompression period, which you give to divers when they come up from the depths. But the public has been in the depths of the truth embargo, and they're now going to try and bring them up out of it. But they can't just do it in one go, because you know what happens to divers if you do that? They basically explode.
Oh, I hope when the Brits get ready to roll out their stuff, PSYOPs, truth, whatever, I hope we get somebody new and updated from Nick Pope. Surely he isn't going to be the dude, right? Because, come on, man.
Nick Pope has had his day, I think.
I think so.
What Nick Pope's, I think he lost it in 2012 when he started coming out with all kinds of stuff about about the 2012 Olympics. He did that article about the fake alien invasion at the Olympics, which was something which other people were talking about, like Rick Clay and Ian R. Crane, sadly both deceased now. But Nick Pope wrote this article, I think it was in the Telegraph or something, talking about how there might be, he was saying, beware for the fake alien invasion. It turned out he was on a retainer from some computer game company, and this was a piece of viral marketing. I think he burned his bridges with certainly British ufology when that happened.
Pretty much.
So I hope he won't be back. He lives in the States. He's married to an American. I know he does. He sometimes puts in an appearance at UFO conferences, and I think he's one of these people like Rick Doty, like Colonel John Alexander. And I think to myself, when you see them at a conference, and you think to yourself, why are they inviting those people? And Nick Pope is one of those.
There's a lot of those in ufology.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. Too many of them for my liking. But listen, we tend to, especially with this report coming out, focus on the US ufology. And sure, some of the most famous cases ever, Roswell comes to mind, America. However, Ben, since we last spoke, man, oh man, I finally got the chance to do a show with Kaz Clark and Gary Jones. Now, you had told me, bro, A, about the case. You had encouraged me to do a show with these guys. Ben, I'm still trying to get over that show, the information. The Pentyrch UFO, for me, it's got everything, dude. It could be one of the most significant things that ever happened in Britain. I hate to say this because we're both big fans of Rendlesham, but I'm actually starting to sway over whether this could have more significance than Rendlesham Forest. And not only that, you've been down there recently, right?
I did indeed, yeah. It was actually since you did your show with Kaz and Gary. As we talked privately about this, but Kaz decided to organise a private event, which would involve, it was a social event, but it was also involving Skywatchers. And she invited me, which was lovely. She invited me to come along, and so I went to Pentyrch. I think it's the fourth time I've actually been to Pentyrch, and so I went there, and I had a lovely time. It was great. I mean, I would like to be able to tell you that we had an amazing experience and we saw something which provided decisive evidence of UFOs. I didn't, unfortunately. But we did see a lot of weird things. I saw many lights in the sky which weren't aircraft. It's possible they're satellites of some kind. There was one which appeared to change course, and I didn't see this at the time, but there were people with cameras there, and I think it was captured. This was captured. I don't know if it's ever going to be published or when it'll be published, but some guys came up with some night vision cameras. They were using the proper thing. We all went into Kaz's garden because Kaz actually has in her back garden. She's built a sky watching platform. It's amazing. It's like a piece of decking, but you know most decking's like about 2-3 feet high. This is like 6 or 7 feet high, and you go up on there. And Pentyrch is a small place. You know, it's in the countryside. There's not much light pollution, and you get an amazing view from there. You can see the stars and everything. And so we went up. I also took a trip out. I walked out to the field, which is just a short walk because it's a small village, and I went out into that field to see what I could see with some of the others. I saw many lights moving overhead. Excuse me.
Getting close to Ben's bedtime. See, this is it. It's getting close to the bedtime, man.
Yeah, but I honestly, Kev, I would love to be able to report that I saw some really decisive piece of evidence. I didn't, unfortunately.
That's
but I did see
cool.
something. It could be that I did. You see, it could be some of those. I've never seen that many satellites. If they're satellites, there was one coming over, and they were coming over every 10 minutes.
Now, when I spoke to Kaz, very genuine, very genuine. Gary, great researcher, but you've been down there. You've met them physically. What can you tell the audience? Because I know that story really made a big impression on a lot of the audience that have heard it.
When I first contacted Kaz, I mean, I didn't automatically believe what she was telling me. I spoke to her. She actually contacted me first. She was contacting as many people in ufology as she could. Not many. I think more people should take this seriously, actually, than have done. But I did. I spoke to her for a long time. I ended up interviewing her. I went to Pentyrch. I took a trip up there with Gary and Kaz. I met Gary and Kaz, and they showed me some of their field research. We also went to Smylog Woods. Someone's already mentioned that in the chat. Smylog Woods is near Llantrisant, which is where the big hospital is, the Royal Glamorgan Hospital, where there was, at the same time, or close to that time, there was a second incident involving a large explosion, and basically a cleanup team went in there, and it was really quite something. So I did that, and then I went back another time just to interview a second witness. Now, this is a guy, well, not interview, just to speak to him, because he wouldn't be filmed. He wouldn't let me film him. I left my camera at home, so he could trust me. He's a man who lives in Pentyrch, near Kaz, and he really, really doesn't want any publicity. He's certainly not looking for fame or fortune. He really is not. And I had to be very careful because he was there at this event last week. I had to be very careful when I was doing my own video log that I didn't get him in frame. He's really worried about his privacy. I believe these people, I really do. Gary's work on the environment, the environmental forensic evidence he's done, I think is very good. He worked with the Swansea UFO network, and then he also did some independent investigation as well. It's also the weird things we did mention this before, Kev, I think, because there's also the fact that the day after the event, all these weird people turned up. Guys with police forensic suits on in the white overalls, orange jackets. And the reason they had orange jackets was they had pistols and shoulder holsters underneath them. When Kaz asked who they were, they said that, we're from Vodafone. How many engineers from Vodafone walk around tooled up?
No.
I switched to O2, mate. I really don't know if they're going to do that. And Kaz... someone else, actually, because I spoke to several people who saw these weird guys coming, and someone else asked them, and they said they were part of a fracking survey. So these people, there was about a dozen of these then in the fields. They would tell people anything other than they gave many, many different cover stories, but it's pretty obvious they were there for the UFO. There was some people from the government who were sent in for the UFO to investigate the UFO. Now,
Ben, you could almost make a case for. It sounds bizarre, but the days leading up to it, you've got the AWACS up in the sky. It's almost as if they were waiting for something to turn up.
Yeah, now there was an exercise going on at that time, and indeed I know Emlyn from Sufon and Mike, the two guys from Sufon, Steve Drewson, they were interviewed in this newspaper talking about this exercise, and they think that I contributed it. I know Kaz and Gary and the people in Pentyrch said they'd never seen that kind of activity, because this exercise is a regular thing. It's done about once a year. And they said they'd never seen that kind of activity before. Now, but it's interesting, you say it's like they were waiting for something to happen. Like they knew something was about, they didn't know exactly where, but they knew within the rough area something weird was going to happen. And we've seen this before. We've seen this at other events, such as also in Wales, the Berwyn Mountains incident. And I think there's evidence to suggest the same thing happened in Nottinghamshire in 1987. So if the government know in advance something weird's about to happen, and they don't know exactly where, but they know in the rough area it's going to be. So they could move the troops forward, ready to deal with it. The question is, how? And this is an important point. How do they know? Do they have some kind of detection device, which maybe involving some kind of technology, or even something, or even psychics with remote viewers or people like that? I don't know, but there's no doubt that happens. Absolutely no doubt.
It's got to be one of the most interesting cases I've heard about in a long time. Long time. Yeah.
I think it's fascinating. They did a conference, Kaz did a conference as well in 2018. It was like a second anniversary, so it was a 2019 third anniversary conference. I went up there and I spoke at that conference too. And I went up there again last time. I feel if anyone wants to see the video I made, it's on Hapanmo TV. It doesn't include any footage of the only footage of the Skywatch is basically my vlog. I don't have the night vision cameras that these other guys have, so I couldn't show you any of that.
But this is the one case where you had the strange phone call, right, telling you not to talk about it.
Yeah, that was actually in February of 2019, because I know exactly when it was, because it was about a week before I went off to Denmark. Somebody phoned me up. I got a phone call. I have an extraterrestrial landline, which only people close to me know. Now, there are people from my housemates, Ahmad and Hassan, who know it, but they're all in Sudan. That's basically those guys' family. They call on the landline occasionally. But those guys have all the people that Ahmad and Hassan know in Oxford. They just talk on their mobiles too. So it's an extraterrestrial number. Very, very few people knew it. I was just sitting at home, and the phone rang, and someone said, a man with a very posh accent. He says, "Hello, is that Ben Emlyn-Jones?" I said, "Yes." He says, "I think you should have nothing to do with Kaz Clark. She's a con," or I think he said con woman or con artist. I don't know, because I interrupted him and I said, "Who are you?" And he says, "It doesn't matter who I am, just a bit of advice. Stay away from Kaz Clark." And I said, "Who are you?" And he just put the phone down. And I think this was something to do with the fact, because when I went to Denmark, I did a presentation for UFO Denmark in Copenhagen, and I mentioned the Pentyrch UFO incident. That's the first time that case has ever been discussed outside the UK. So I broke it into the international scene. I think he wanted to maybe scare me into not talking about it. I mean, Kev, when I got to Denmark, I was a bit worried, because I thought, are they going to find drugs in my luggage? Or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean, man.
Because they may be really worried about me going to Denmark and talking about this. I thought, am I going to get through customs,
Well, Ben, how about we wrap this up, and I'm going to ask you again for your final thoughts on your speculation as to what we're going to see or not see this week when the UFO report comes out. Your thoughts, your feelings, and then we'll wrap this up. And I tell you, I want to thank everyone for joining us for this impromptu, but at least we got on air today after things went wrong at the TFR end. But that couldn't be helped, folks. I'm just really lucky that Ben was flexible, agreed to come over here and have a chat about all these good topics. You know me, I can't hear enough of this information because I don't know what's going on. So it's good to hear as many different takes as possible. And we'll see how the chips or the UFOs fall on Friday, right?
We will see. All I know is some weird stuff's going on. I know that there was a bus shelter in London that was used for some weird experiment. I tell you, it's. I know we're coming to the end now, but I got just quickly. They set up the bus shelter to look like it's got a window, but it's not really a window. It's a TV screen showing a view from a camera, and then they add UFOs onto it.
Yeah.
They wanted to see, because people can look out and I think they're looking out a window. They're actually looking at a TV screen. And there's a camera recording their reactions. Now, supposedly this was some kind of marketing campaign for Pepsi Max. I don't see the connection myself. Are they monitoring us for our reactions and what would happen if you really did see aliens and UFOs filling the sky?
I know Oreo, they came out with an alien, a limited edition alien kind of biscuit. So they're getting in on the marketing hype.
It's like War of the Worlds, 1938. It's been going on a long time. Because people panicked when they listened to War of the Worlds. They thought it was real.
But what about the other option that we haven't really explored today? What if they know that they're on their way back? Or the aliens are coming in, and they are slowly having to get people up to some kind of level before go time?
I don't know. That's possible, Kevin. I
don't know. It's game theory. I've thought about this so many different ways, dude, and I confuse myself all the time.
Me too. I mean, we really are kind of like in a situation where the public are new to this. We ourselves are just like on the poised. We're poised on the edge of some kind of abyss, and we don't know what's at the bottom. It's something we've never experienced before, whether you're a ufologist or whether you're just a normie. It's something new, and we're just going to have to play it by ear, I think, and keep our heads, keep cool, and hope, and don't believe the hype. At the same time, don't get too paranoid. Yeah. We've got to strike a balance.
Exactly. And whatever happens, try not to get probed. And if they're going to probe you, at least make them assure you it's just the tip, and they're going to use some Andromedan lube.
Like I said, yeah, if it's the green girl from Star Wars, I won't mind.
Exactly, dude. We can be forgiven, So, on that note, Ben, any final thoughts for people out there? Let them know where they can keep up with you.
Yeah.
You're going to be speaking at bases soon. Let people know all about that, man.
I am indeed. I'm speaking at the Basis Project Conference, which is actually the first week. It's actually the second weekend in July. The first weekend in July, I'm speaking at Awake and Aware at the UFO Academy in Watford. And so those are going ahead, as far as I know. I know that the Basis Project is going ahead because I've spoken to Miles about it. No one has said anything about the Awake and Aware being cancelled, so I assume it's going ahead. Please do check those out. Please check out these books as well. Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure, if I can get it.
Yep, it's manifested, man. It materialized.
It disappeared from Amazon the other day, but it's back now. That was a bit of a weird thing. I don't know why that happened. God knows. I think it was another of these glitches. Is Mercury in retrograde right now?
Meant to have stopped yesterday.
Oh, good. So yeah, so check those out. Check out my books. They're £10 each. It's basically a book about the stuff that Kevin and I talk about, but what if we got the truth instead of lies? And it led to a fictional scenario, which is in that book, in all three of those books.
Well, folks, on that note, I am going to sign us off for the night. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in. We're out of here.